let's face it, the supplement aisle is honestly overwhelming. There are so many brands and there's so many claims, from what you see in the store to what you're being pushed on social or TikTok shop or what have you. But the question really is do you know what's in your supplement bottle? Do you actually know what those ingredients are, and if they are what they say they are? That's where today's guests, Emily Morrow and Allie Hobson, come in. They're a powerhouse duo behind the brand Core Formulas. This is a brand that I have been taking for the last almost year, and I have absolutely been obsessed with their products. I wanted to bring them on because they are a brand committed to stripping away the fluff and getting back to the basics of foundational health. Emily is a nutritional therapy and integrative health practitioner and the founder of MBCE. It's a course that teaches functional blood chemistry analysis with a mission rooted in discipline, rhythms, and bio-individual wellness. Emily brings a deep passion for empowering others to pursue optimal health. And Allie is also a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. She's also a mom of two boys, a co-creator of the Root Cause Formula program, which is absolutely insane. Her knowledge is just so vast in the holistic health space. And after her own battle with Hashimoto's in 2016, she has since dedicated her career to helping women optimize their health through functional nutrition, lab testing, and protocols that work in real life, not just on paper. And together, Emily and Allie are on a mission to fill the gaps that they saw in the supplement industry during thousands of one-on-one client consultations. They've built Core Formulas on the principles of simplicity, transparency, and efficacy, creating products that deliver what your body truly needs without the unnecessary fillers or fluff. In this conversation, we dive into what sets their brand apart, but so much more. We talk about foundational health. We talk about the behind the scenes of formulating their products, as well as what they see in their own clients. Everything from postpartum health to acne. We really dig into some of their most popular products, some of the products that I personally take and what they do and how they help their customers. And I asked some questions that honestly get me excited because they shared a few sneak peeks around products that are coming down the pipeline. And what I just love so much about them is that they are doing things differently. So if you are a supplement skeptic, or if you're a health enthusiast and you are looking for your next go-to brand of supplements that honestly I think will turn you into a lifer of their products, this conversation is for you. I am so excited for you to hear about specifically their coffee creamer. That is a product that I take every single day and put into my coffee. At the end of this episode, make sure you listen all the way through. They actually give their exact recipe for their protein coffee, and I just think it's absolutely worth the listen. So let's welcome Emily Morrow and Allie Hobson to the Trust Issues podcast. Welcome to the Trust Issues podcast, the show where we question everything society tells us about how to live, work, eat, and be. I'm Erica Auckland, a mom, entrepreneur, and advocate for living life on your own terms. Here we challenge the status quo, from the food we feed our families to the way that we build wealth and well-being. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with everyone from farmers, financial experts, and everyday people who are doing life differently, all with one goal: to help you live healthier, freer, and more abundant. If you've ever felt like there's more to life than following the crowd, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Emily and Allie, welcome to the Trust Issues podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Yay! Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited.
All right, we're going to get straight into it because you guys are just making waves in the supplement industry. And as someone who loves a good supplement and also is a mom, someone who's trying to be healthier, our listeners are constantly asking me on social media, how do I know if a supplement is good? Is it trustworthy? And something you guys really pride yourself on is the transparency and the quality of your supplements. So if we could just get into it a little bit, I want to talk about Core Formulas and how you started in a moment. But in terms of like, how do I know whether a product is good, or what is your stance on just transparency in your products? And what's something that maybe most people don't know about when it comes to supplements and how they're formulated or manufactured? I know that can get spicy. That might surprise people.
Gosh, there's so many. I think probably the biggest thing that might surprise people, even though it's on the label, is that none of it's regulated. So if a supplement says this has this amount of milligrams of B6 in it, it may not. It could strictly be rice powder in 1% of that because nothing is regulated. So you truly don't know unless you're digging deeper and getting it from a reputable source and brand if what it says is on the label is actually in the product.
Yeah, I think
How
there's
can
also,
you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Allie.
I was just going to touch on kind of like the testing and things that like is really important to us. Like when it came down to, we just added actually like a whole entire section to our website, which I'm so excited about because it talks about NSF testing. It talks about the extra steps that we do as like, we're not white labeling, you know, we're using a manufacturer who does kind of, I mean, they're big batches, but more or less like small batch formulating. And even something like cleaning the machines in between runs from different companies is a huge deal, because if they're not doing that, say you have someone that's doing a heavy metal test or they're not testing it, they maybe test some runs but not others. If you're not testing it every single time, how do you know that your products are not being kind of like mixed in with someone else's from a, you know, complete quality control aspect? So there's so many things that like we do that we could mention that are a little bit different, and something that's like really important to us to make sure we have these absolutely clean, like well tested products for metals, microbials, and we test every single batch on raw materials. So when we get it, and then also as a formula. So a lot of times companies will not even do like an after test. They'll kind of just test the raw materials, everything looks good. Or I know this because there was a lot of, I don't want to say like controversy, but you know, people are talking about, oh, so and so said that this actually was third party tested and it's coming back with high heavy metals or prenatals or kids vitamins that are actually, you know, saying that they're clean and they're coming back with these high, you know, metal counts, but why? And so when I reached out to our manufacturer to figure that out, I was just genuinely curious, like, how does a company produce a product that tests high for heavy metals? And these were all the things that they kind of shared. And so if you're kind of not taking these extra steps, then yeah, it's kind of tricky. And that's like super important to us. So testing not only the raw materials when you get them, say, you know, our magnesium and our lion's mane, those are all tested individually. And then we retest everything as a whole batch formula, which some people don't do the whole batch formula testing at the end because they assume it's fine. So there's a
Wow.
lot of things like that that I find very interesting.
So I think that's where we just need to talk about how the both of you founded Core Formulas. Like, how did you start this in the first place? You two are functional nutritional therapy practitioners, right? So what gaps did you notice in the supplement industry through your own consultations with your clients that really motivated you to start Core Formulas?
Allie, you want me to start?
Yeah, because Emily did kind of like, I'll tell you when I jumped in. So
It's always funny because in everything I've done in the health industry, it really hasn't been me going out and seeking it. It's been me writing down what I would love to do, what I would love to learn, and having opportunities presented to me after the fact. So, for example, I'm looking at my computer over here. I had a notes on my phone that said supplements that I want to create. And it was things that I could not find that I liked that were currently available. And to give you a perfect example, the ingredient ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is used a lot as an adaptogen for adrenal support. But what isn't talked about is the fact that it's a nightshade and the fact that it can increase testosterone, which leads to a lot of acne in women. And so they are told, hey, you need to scale back your workouts. You need to get on this adrenal supplement with ashwagandha in it. And now all of a sudden their histamine's worse and they're breaking out. And I would see these adrenal adaptogen supplements and see all the problems with a lot of the ingredients that aren't coherent with one another. And I would say, hey, I love this ingredient and I love this ingredient, but I don't want all the rest of it. And I started a notes on my phone of what I wanted to create from a supplement perspective. And that was on my phone for probably 2 to 3 years. And I had a company say, out of nowhere one day, we found your website. We just started as a manufacturing company for supplements. Have you ever thought of starting a supplement line? And I said, yes, and I have my first 5 formulas. And so I immediately reached out to Allie because we were working in a group program together. And asked her if she wanted to do this with me because it's not something I wanted to do alone. And we were working together with clients, seeing the gaps from people with lab work.
And I think it was more like, hey, we're starting a supplement company. And of course, like my personality is just like, oh my God, great. Like, what do I do? Like, what do I need to do? So that's
Yes.
really kind of how it started. But Emily and I work so well together. We kind of knew, like, I was just so excited to be a part of it and continue, kind of our practice together in a different capacity. And then it just kind of, yeah, ran from there.
Yeah.
I just like keep going back to what you guys said about how something in a product could say it has B vitamins, whatever, and that it could be rice powder. And then about like not cleaning, like just a basic thing, like not cleaning the equipment. Like my mind is actually like, I'm a little stuck on that a little bit. And I think for our listeners, that kind of just like it has me taken aback a bit around how much money have I spent on products that I'm taking something and I have no idea what's actually in it because it's not third-party tested, because the founders don't really care that much about all of these other things that you guys have so specifically looked at. So tell us a little bit more about core formulas and what sets it apart in such a saturated market, because everybody is creating supplements and everybody has a supplement that they're sharing on TikTok Shop, or which always scares me, or on Instagram. So what sets you guys apart, and what are some of the things that you have done in your formulas and your formulations that are different?
I'm going to probably let Allie take the bulk of this question. One thing I'll say about that is you're right. There is so many supplements out there. So many. We didn't see formulas that provided a full body approach, because when you think of the core of the body, which is where that term of our brand came from, it's what holds the body together. So without a strong core, even if your legs are strong, you're going to get injured. And so when you look at formulations out there, though the market's oversaturated, if you have a gut supplement, it was only supporting maybe the gut. It wasn't also supporting the adrenals and the brain, because there's that connection there. So I'd say that the way we formulate is very different from other people, where we're looking at, okay, yes, we want a drainage supplement, but we also want to provide the support in that drainage supplement for why their drainage could be impaired to begin with.
And to kind of like piggyback on Emily's answer of the way we formulate, like gut makeover is a great example. I think the thing that I constantly get amazing feedback on is how well our products work. And I think that's something like you can only kind of know and experience when you are also a practitioner and working with clients, because you'll hear like, okay, you put them on like this amazing protocol, and in your head scientifically it's like everything should get better or improve based on their lab work, etc. And when it doesn't, it's sometimes confusing, maybe it wasn't the right support, but also like I just find a difference with people giving us feedback about our products because they're so simple. It's like you're giving, 5 to 7 ingredients and it's doing what it needs to do. And it's very intentional. It's very simple. Instead of looking at, sometimes I look at these blends of things that it's like 100 different things. Well, how much of, that olive leaf extract, for example, is like in there? Probably not a lot, because you've got a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well. So I think that we formulate very basic, very simple, and it's like a very targeted approach versus kind of like, hey, all these things are really great for the gut. Let's just like put them together and hope for the best. Like people constantly give us their feedback on 4 or 5 ingredients, which is incredible.
So good. And I also think that your product, I just have to like talk about daily basics because obviously in the name, it's your daily basics, but this is for our listeners. It comes in this little jar. So not so little, but comes in this tub, and it has a scooper in it. And I do 2 scoops every single day in my King coffee. Emily got me on that. And it has I want you guys to talk about the ingredients because obviously you formulated this product, but it has like an ever so light coconut flavor because it has, I think it's like, is it coconut sugar? Whatever, you have to tell us about the product. But What I love about it is that I can get my daily basics in a drink that I'm taking every single day. And I think this is what you're doing so well, is you're helping people with their everyday practices, what they're already doing and their everyday routine. And it's a very easy thing to put in your drink. Another thing I noticed too with your products is a lot of it is like you take 1 capsule. And I really loved that because I'm like, sometimes you're taking these products and it's like take 6 3 times a day. And you're like, what? Like there is no way that I'm going to, number one, remember to do that as a busy mom. But number two, like I have to, this is a lot, I have to drink a ton of water to get all these supplements back. So I think just to like harp on your intentionality and how it is a simple formulation, and it's easy to take. It's like, I think there's something to be said about that. Like you're doing something very different. Because as a girly who's, I got certified as a holistic health coach back in 2012. Like I've been into holistic health for so many years. I've taken so many supplements. And I think that's something I have really not seen before, is how you're doing it in this way. So can you talk to us a little bit about Daily Basics? Because I think this is probably one of your best sellers, I'm assuming. I love it so much. I always buy 2 at a time because I will not run out. Yes. My husband takes it now too. So just talk about this product because it's so good.
Yes, we obviously love it. We spent a lot of time on the phone really fine-tuning exactly what we wanted in it because, like you said, it's something that's easy someone can add to their day, whether it's their morning coffee, morning tea, lemon water. You can quickly just add that powder, not deal with pill fatigue. It's TSA friendly. You can travel with it. A lot of times the creamers that are available for coffee or tea are junk. And we weren't trying to add this buttload of sugar to a morning beverage, but just that subtle coconut milk powder. And we tried countless coconut milk powders to land on the right one because there's no fillers in that. There's no maltodextrin in that. It's strictly 100% coconut milk powder overseas in the Philippines, and you can taste the purity of it because we wanted something that wasn't pills if someone was going to be taking it every day. And then with the ingredients that we chose to put in there, that was largely dependent upon what are the nutrients and essentials and basics to help the body function optimally. And you could make a case for a lot of things, but we really thought about what are also the biggest gaps we're seeing in lab work that are causing the biggest dysfunctions in our culture and society at the moment. And that really boiled down to a few really key points. One being overall immune health. It's very common that we see someone low in vitamin D, or they struggle with iron absorption due to lack of vitamin A, or their white blood cells are lower than they should be, below that 5.5. And so overall, optimal immunity is essential. The body needs to have optimal immune function to do its everyday tasks, respond to foreign invaders, be able to lower inflammatory responses. And then the other 3 ingredients we really sat with, again, what are the big gaps? What are needed to help people as a whole first thing in the morning? Inositol we added in there because of the blood sugar. It's very, very, very blood sugar balancing. And a lot of people are making that morning beverage first thing, and their stress is through the roof because either they're a mom and they're chasing their kids around, or making school lunches, or preparing for the day, and their cortisol and their blood sugar's through the roof. And so that inositol kind of comes in and helps buffer that. We also added taurine, which taurine is one of our all-time favorite ingredients as well because it's helpful for the liver. It helps you absorb your fat-soluble vitamins because it's going to increase that bile. It also acts as a pre-mycotoxin binder. So a lot of people are exposed to mold. They live in mold, they travel, and they're exposed to it, and that taurine can actually help buffer that in a way as well. And then we also added selenium because of the thyroid component, but there's also so many secondary benefits of selenium that we learned over time, and a lot of people aren't getting that in their diet either. So we see on a thyroid panel that their free T3 is low, or their thyroid uptake is low because they're missing out on that essential nutrient. And that's, supporting the thyroid, which that active thyroid hormone is what activates that mitochondria and every other system and cell in the body. So we wanted to create something as best we could that provided the top support for those key pillared systems in a way that tastes good. I sometimes just take it by the spoonful because it tastes like almost cake powder.
Yeah. It kind of does. I love it. I mean, like I said, I will never run out of it. And one point you said was about the fillers and the maltodextrin. And that is something that I've learned so much about supplements, is that you could be taking a product that while on the label it says coconut milk powder, you may unknowingly be also taking all these additional fillers that they're not required. Supplement companies are not required to put on the label, which is super scary. And just such a huge red flag. So very important point there. I'd love to talk to you about what's another, I take so many of your supplements. I have your Happy Bees. I take your stress control in this season of my life as a mom of 2. I take that every single day. But what's another product that you feel like is maybe a bestseller, but also one that you don't want people to sleep on? You feel like people can really benefit most people can really benefit from taking?
Allie loves gut makeover. She'll
I
speak
think
to that.
that's my favorite. I love Gut Makeover for the reason of, again, it has that gut brain access connection that Emily spoke about, and you don't really see that in other formulas. I also love, because I have two kids as well, I have two boys, and I open up the capsule and I give it to my oldest to support his gut. It actually has zero taste. If you ever need to know what a capsule or any supplement tastes like, I'm your girl. I've opened them all up because I know where I can put them. So that's one that, like, the serving size for an adult, we say 4 capsules. That one is one of the only ones that we have a larger amount of capsules, purely just on the fact that that's kind of what the capsules require to be effective in the dosages that we really wanted. But it's so easy to kind of just say, okay, I'm going to be able to dose this down. And I think when it comes to kids, that's one of my passions for sure, and
Mm-hmm.
supporting them in that way from a very young age, I think, is amazing. And it's simple ingredients that if someone were to look up all of them, I guarantee you'd be like, I actually feel really safe about this. So Gut Makeover to me is just one of those really great products. I think the other one that's maybe not a bestseller, but one that people kind of like don't really know what to do with, and we kind of tried to do a bigger marketing push. I think it was our product of the month last month in November or October, but Just Aloe is one of those ingredients that it's literally just that. It's aloe vera, it's the gel or inner leaf form, and we just encapsulated it. And there's so many kind of other studies, like Emily talked about, with selenium, we kind of just think thyroid, but it goes much more beyond that. So aloe vera we think of as kind of, it's calming, it's cooling. You typically think
Mm-hmm.
about putting it topically on your skin, but it has those same anti-inflammatory effects on the inside. And there's a lot of studies that will actually show a decrease in thyroid antibodies for thyroid autoimmunity. It's just one of those kind of great products that I feel like I wish more people would kind of like try out. So it's one of those kind of, if you're dealing with immune compromise, if you have, low white blood cell count or other immune markers, if you've got the autoimmune, say TPO antibodies, showed up on your blood work panel, or your ANA positive, for example, I think that's a great add-on, and it's very simple. It can also be, we actually had it in 2 of our formulas to begin with. I think it was in our Bowel Complete as well. And then maybe we even had it in Gut Makeover before we broke it off into its own, separate capsule, just because it can also support the bowels. And so if you pair it and kind of, layer in something like a Just Aloe on top of the Bowel Complete for extra support, maybe when you travel, it's kind of one of those really good kind of add-on products that I really do think is awesome.
Wow.
It's a
I
It's tiny. Yeah, it's tiny.
I need to buy this one. Okay, that's the one I haven't tried yet. So you just sold me on that.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, I want to ask this because I think you kind of touched on this around obviously blood panels. Like if someone is listening to this and they really want to get even more specific around what supplements do I specifically need? Do you have, and obviously both of you being practitioners, do you have like a step-by-step of what someone could do to get a personalized look at like what they need? Because maybe they don't need every single supplement that you guys sell, or maybe they need one specifically that they're bypassing because they just think maybe this one isn't for me. I think that's something that's really special about the fact that you're both practitioners and formulators, and you own a product company. Because I just think that there's so much overwhelm. And that's what I hear from so many people is like, how do I choose what product to take or which one I need? And they might go to the website, and I'm going to say, get your daily basics, because that's my favorite. But, like maybe they need something else. Is there, a protocol that you would suggest, or like a step-by-step for someone to get their own panel?
yes. There are several different ways people can get labs run. One is to just go to any lab test now in your area. Granted, it will be more expensive, and request what you want. So I think of my stepdad, because of the medication that he's on, he would go to one of those any lab tests now and request the CBC, CMP, iron panel, and then he would pay for it, right? And I remember one day I said, well, I can just place the requisition for that for you. And he saw the price and he was like, huh? I've Why am I just not learning about this? I've been paying how much for how long, and I could pay this amount for the same markers. And what's really cool as a practitioner is I found this awesome lab to partner with, where as health coaches you can't order labs, but you can partner with a lab to place requisition forms to where their doctor signs up on those lab orders. And so I have a course where I've taught tons of health coaches and they are able to work with people to do the same thing. So create those requisition forms so people can get blood work done. Or if they just want to go to any lab test now, they can request those labs. And that's blood, but there's also stool testing, GI maps that look at the health and overall picture of your gut, urine testing that looks at the health of your hormones. We really like from Precision Analytical their Dutch testing and their cycle mapping testing. And you asked, how do I know? What do I need? Testing is one of the best ways. We love the method of test, don't guess, but we also love symptoms. Allie has done an incredible job of creating these educational spreadsheets and guides on our website, Core Formulas, in the Learn tab, because your symptoms always paint a story. And so we've broken down each formula with those symptoms and what to look for. And sometimes we overcomplicate it. If someone comes to me and says, hey, my stomach's been growling all day, what is going to be our answer for them? Hey, have you eaten? You should probably get stomach. Like, I don't need to run a blood panel to tell you that you need to eat your food because your glucose is through the roof from stress. In the same have a new mom who said, hey, I'm looking at your website. I don't know what I need. I haven't gotten blood work in a long time, but I'm not sleeping. I'm waking up every few hours to feed my baby. I'm trying to manage my job. My husband just got deployed for the military. Like, you probably need some stress control. You probably need some love in a bottle to give yourself that extra support. And, to help you digest, maybe also get some gut makeover to calm the gut down and consider possibly some B vitamins since you're burning through those B vitamin reserves for you and baby. We actually postpartum see low B6 on almost every postpartum mom's labs. Almost always. We see that dip in GGT and ALT and some variations in the iron panel and the M value markers, MCV, MCH, MCHC. So that's why we have those educational worksheets, because sometimes your symptoms and circumstances will guide you to exactly what's best for you.
Yeah. We also have, if you ever needed, we're really good about our email as well. Like, I think our one-on-one support is something that we try really, really hard to do. And so if you're like, hey, I would love to be, connected with a practitioner who is well educated in your products, we can, connect you with someone. So something, if you are a practitioner or a health coach and you want to be a part of like our free, we have just a VIP kind of like membership portal where we actually did a training on every single formula as a whole, just to educate people who are kind of out there, wanting to use our products and educate and using them in their practice. And so those people are very well educated. We have our affiliates who tend to mostly be practitioners, I would say, but we have a lot of people that are really educated that we've taken a lot of time to kind of help educate them to help us, be the eyes and ears out in the, the wellness world, for extra support as well.
That's so good. You said that postpartum women, you're seeing a lot of deficiency. You said B6. So I would love to know, in terms of obviously the idea of core formulas is these foundational formulas, right? What are some other things that you're seeing that people are deficient in, or just like these, I'm sure there's a lot of common threads. It's interesting too, because you talked about stress control, and a supplement I personally take and really love as a mom who's breastfeeding and who's up, several times a night, all the things. But I was just thinking about what is like trending on social media right now. Like, what is everybody talking about? I feel like a lot of people talk about cortisol face. I think a lot of people talk about acne, which I would love to touch on with you in a moment, Emily. But I think that I'd love for you to dive into a little bit more of what are some deficiencies that you're seeing as practitioners that your products can help with?
Yeah, B6 is probably the biggest one. I have a whole post on my feed that we can link in the show notes on why B6 is my favorite vitamin, because it does so much more than just give you energy. It's kind of like your happy vitamin, but it's a precursor to progesterone. If you lack B6, you're not going to properly excrete heavy metals from the system. You're not going to make sufficient melatonin production. When you look at some well-formulated melatonin products, they tend to include B6 in there because it's a precursor for its production. And people talk about magnesium all the time. Well, B6 is an important cofactor for that. And so we see a lot of people where the biggest trends are not only symptoms, hair loss, acne, low progesterone, PMS, PMDD, moodiness, but also they'll start to say, hey, I just don't sleep well. I have a hard time falling asleep. I have a hard time turning my brain off. And we look at their labs, and we've run so many postpartum labs at this point, and you see the same trends over and over and over and over again with immune deficiency. I'll let Allie touch on mineral imbalance here in a second, because that's probably the other biggest thing we see, as well as these dips in these liver enzymes, which is just a key component of B6. And Allie speaks to minerals all the time because we're so big on supporting their minerals. But what we also tend to see and why we created something like Daily Basics is you need taurine and B6 for proper mineral utilization and balance. And that's where a lot of people will slam minerals in their body and your body has no idea what to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So like in pregnancy, I mean, you're basically between pregnancy and postpartum, you've literally given all of your minerals away. Like pretty much you're done. So
Bye.
yeah.
You
And
like
people
feel it
wonder
leaving your
why.
body. You feel
Yeah.
it. You're like, goodbye, there it goes.
Literally, goodbye, nice knowing you. I need more. And also, when it comes to pregnancy and like leg cramping or like, some of these pregnancy symptoms, I'm like, that's not a pregnancy symptom. You need minerals. Your body is depleted and you need that magnesium. You need your body to kind of flow. Think about the lymphatic system. And then you've got, a baby impacted and pushed into all of your organs, kind of displayed. There's a lot going on. So if you're just thinking about basics, like, yes, you need a lot of water, but you need your body to actually, have that cellular hydration, which is something that's confusing people just like, oh, well, I'm drinking a lot of water. It's like, okay, that's fine, but you're probably just peeing it out. Like you need these other cofactors to actually absorb and utilize it. So with the hair loss, I mean, yes, iron can be definitely, I mean, think about too with pregnancy. A lot of people are either deficient their entire pregnancy and had no idea,
Mm.
or they're postpartum and now there's just so many things going on. Iron can be depleted. That's a symptom, things like that. The other thing that I see a lot in postpartum labs is fungal bacterial overgrowth postpartum because of the way that your hormones have been so elevated. I almost
Mm.
think of like these hormones act as kind of like a magnet for fungal and bacterial overgrowth. Also, people are not maybe, some people, I won't say that, some people are eating their absolute best in their pregnancy because they just really are, feeling great and want to fuel. But like, there's so many people that are like, I didn't feel great. And it was probably, morning sickness and all the things, which I always just go back to, okay, well, that's probably a liver gallbladder issue. So if we support that, then morning sickness, no one should be feeling sick their entire pregnancy. That's not, I don't
Yeah.
want to say that's not normal, but that's not something to be expected, and nor should you just deal with it. It's, your body giving you these clues saying, hey, listen up. And so when your hormones are elevated, we have kind of more of this bacterial fungal overgrowth. And so say, baby has cradle cap or you're getting clogged ducts. I had this issue with my second where I was having these clogged ducts nursing. And I was like, this is so crazy. It was happening over and over and over again. At about like the 4-month mark, I almost was like, I don't even know if I can keep doing this. It was so bad. And then I started thinking like, okay, Allie, just like put on your, like take off your mom hat for a second, put on your practitioner hat. What if the fungal and bacterial and clog and things, think about mastitis. That's, a bacterial issue. Where does all of this usually stem from? Everything, not everything, but most all things stem and start in the gut. And so once I
Mm.
addressed some fungal issues and bacteria in my gut, I am not kidding you, I did not have one clog after that. Not one. And so that's a very common thing that we'll kind of see, even in blood work, when you're looking at kind of that CBC panel with the lymphocytes neutrophil pattern. Those imbalances and kind of seesaws can give you indications of, yes, this looks bacterial, or in your urine panel, it's cloudy, there's an off pH, those are really common patterns. And so bringing in something, to help your body actually open up those drainage pathways, help heal and seal the gut. We don't have anything that's necessarily going to be like an antibacterial, antifungal, but you can't just start with that either, right? Like you have to focus on drainage pathways first, and you have to focus on your stress, and you have to focus on your gut before you can eradicate anything always. And so like that's where we always come back to foundations. It's like you almost need everything that we produce and our products sometimes, or pick and choose, before you can go to those other supports like parasites and bacteria and metals and all these other root causes that are so important in many ways. But you can't just jump to that. You have to make sure
Right.
that the foundations are there.
And then
I,
also when you look at the fillers, you mentioned it earlier, Erica, when brands are mass producing things, there's several things they have to add, which some of it they don't have to, but they do. Sometimes they just add coloring agents to make it look a certain color, which is super frustrating because it market wise it looks better for them from a marketing perspective, but they'll add preservatives to extend the shelf life. because they're mass ordering it and they're on these shelves, and then fillers and flow agents to prevent things from caking together. And so what happens is someone is doing their best and they're trying to get better, and then they are postpartum and they're tired and they're deficient, and they start taking these powders and potions, as we like to call them, and a little bit of magnesium stearate here and a little bit of filler and flow agent here and a little bit of corn maltodextrin here over the course of everything that they're taking. That also then throws off your gut bugs. That throws off your blood sugar. That causes more inflammatory responses internally, and now your system can't perform optimally. So we don't add any preservatives that extend shelf life to our products. We get new batches, and then we move through those batches. When we're getting low, we place a new batch order, which is why sometimes our products are back ordered, because there is that longer turnaround time. But it's why our supplements, even by the expired date, are still good for another 2 years after.
Wow.
And it's also because we're not bulk ordering supplement, like actual raw materials either. Like they don't have a
Right.
warehouse where they just hold on to a bunch of B6. It's like when we produce it, they order it from where they get it from, and then we're producing our products. And so a lot of these, raw materials have been sitting on the shelf for a long time, and then they go into production. So it's already almost aged them prematurely, which is, unfair to the customer for sure.
Which when a lot of the mold growth happens, and these situations where it's just been sitting there in an untemperature controlled environment. And Amazon, unfortunately, is one of those situations. You truly don't know what you're getting from Amazon because you don't know how long it's been sitting in a really hot, humid Amazon warehouse.
Oh, that's scary. I never thought about it that way. It's like you could be buying a product from a brand that you love, but if it's on Amazon, it could be just sitting for months. Y'all, oh my gosh.
Well, there's still the possibility of counterfeits because they're not checking, some
Right.
like they've literally pulled stuff off Amazon from these brands, and it's not actually that brand. It's a person or it's someone over in China. I don't know. I'm making that up. But they create people, they have things, and they pull it out, and they'll literally take these capsules out, and it's rice powder. Like there's
Wow.
literally rice powder in these capsules.
So we need to stop buying supplements on Amazon.
Pretty much.
Like you just got to be real certain. Sure. Like it's got
Sure.
to be an official place, and you still with that have to know that there is a risk for counterfeit.
Right.
And I
That's
think a good company should be able to, if you were to email the customer service and say hey, I just wanted to know about how often do you ship to Amazon, or
sure.
these are very transparent things that if anybody asks us any question, we're more than happy to answer it. And I feel like that's when you should feel really good about a company or a brand, is the person answering the question actually knows stuff about the company, not they're just a call customer service and they're like, oh, I don't know. These are things that you can definitely ask before making that choice. And if they can't tell you that, then that's a red flag.
No, for sure. Red flags. Red flags. Oh my gosh. That has me shook a little bit. Okay, so we have to talk a little bit about acne
Yep.
because, Emily, that's how I found you. I had been really struggling. I was about a year and a half postpartum. A lot of things hadn't, I feel like my body was just still not it. I wasn't doing so hot. We'll just say that, okay? But found you and your education, and then then I found Core Formulas after I found your page on acne and some of the root causes, the underlying issues. I think our listeners, we definitely, I know this is a huge topic. We could do an entire podcast series just on everything that has to do with acne and that conversation. But I'd love for you to just divulge a little bit around, what are some of the underlying causes that you are seeing with people in acne, and what are some of the deficiencies that can help them with that? Obviously, products is a whole nother conversation, which I just want to plug. Go to Emily's page. Every single skin product that I buy is because Emily's posted about it and pre-approved it. But let's talk about the internal stuff. I think that's really powerful.
Before anyone ever is like, let me do a lab test, I think that you should go through a checklist of things because so many people are triggering their acne without even realizing it. So when you think of a supplement, one of the reasons we left out biotin and B12 from our Be Happy Bees is because in excess, those are acne triggers. And we've also found that, because we've had people say, well, why didn't you just put a small amount in it? Because it's very personalized and bio-individual, and not everyone needs those. So B12 in some individuals can actually lead to hypermethylation, which makes it essentially do the opposite. It can cause a kid to start head against the wall if he doesn't need that B12 and it's causing them to over methylate. And if someone does need it, you usually want it in a form, in my opinion, that's liquid. Not always, but I prefer more liquid forms because you have all three parts of B12 for optimal absorption. And ours is obviously a supplement, so that takes that out of the equation. But we left that out because they are acne triggers. So someone needs to probably go through what they're taking and look at the labels. Am I taking anything? Which, if it's in a supplement, it's probably in excess. B12 and biotin. Vitamin D is another one. People go into the winter and are taking these large amounts of vitamin D. And when you start getting upwards to that 2,000, 5,000, a lot of people are taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. That can be a really easy acne trigger. So even looking at what they're currently taking, going back to ashwagandha, can increase testosterone, acne trigger. If someone has histamine problems, collagen. Collagen can be an acne trigger for some people. Yes. And so whey protein, derived from dairy, colostrum derived from dairy. These may work for some people, but in situations where someone is dealing with a lot of acne, I see them cause problems. Stevia monk fruit. We've talked about this a lot. That's why we're not going to put either in our products. Stevia tends to be more of a problem than monk fruit. Small amounts of monk fruit in only one product you're taking, probably not a problem. But it's the fact that your poppy drink, all the flavored beverages currently, the protein powders, the electrolytes, the sleep drinks. I mean, it's everywhere. It's now in sauces and creamers, and it's everywhere. It's in candy. You cannot not find it. So that's becoming an issue. So before you ever get labs done, look at everything you're taking and make a checklist of possible acne triggers and at least take that out for 30 days and see what happens. But when it comes to the internal side of acne, I've kind of narrowed it down to 4 pillars. One is the infection inflammation pillar, right? If you've got a lot of bacterial overgrowth or fungal overgrowth, you're likely going to be breaking out. It's usually on the cheek area or along the jawline. If it's causing lymphatic issues, it'll dip down into under the chin and the neck as well. And if you have inflammation, like that will lead to those almost painful red cystic like acne bumps, right? Like your skin is actually inflamed, it's red, it's reactive. If you have very sensitive skin, there's likely something contributing to that, whether it's rosacea or then you get into the eczemas and the psoriasis. You got to look at the gut and you have to look at that infection load. Then you get into the drainage section. Drainage, I call it the 4Ds: drainage, deficiencies, digestion, and dehydration. You can clearly see all those patterns on lab work, but if your skin is dehydrated and you are dehydrated, you break down the actual barrier of your skin cells. And so now if your barrier is broken down and it's dehydrated, then it's not able to shield itself from foreign elements. Because we have to remember our skin is a shield. And if you have a wound, what do? You put a Band-Aid on top of it. You're trying to prevent the outside external environments from causing an infection. So people will talk about the internal, but also the health of your barrier externally matters as well when you're trying to prevent overgrowth that leads to acne and clogged pores and all of that. The third pillar is going to be the hormone pillar. And this is where you got women around their cycle, low progesterone breaking out around their mouth. If they have PCOS or excess androgens or testosterone, it tends to be along the jawline. Sometimes it runs up into the cheeks as well. That can also be just liver, gallbladder stagnation. But we see that a lot. I would say that's probably one of the most popular things, and it's triggered by deficiencies and infection loads. So these are all kind of correlated together. And then the final one is stress and blood sugar. And a lot of times people just need to chill out. They go to Italy and they're walking every day and they're not stressed out and they're in the sun and they're eating food. It's like good food, right? Pasta, pizza, and they come back and their skin is super clear. And I'm like, well, you're probably eating higher quality food. You were outside, you were moving your body. You ate that big pasta dish, but then you walked 3 miles and you're not stressed. So that's probably a big contributor. So those are kind of the internal triggers for acne, and then it becomes identifying your own, supporting them accordingly.
What do you find, and this might be like a really hard question to narrow down, but what do you find is your top product that you recommend to your acne clients?
So I would say we use quite a bit of just electrolytes in general because a lot of people really are struggling in that department. They're just not getting, and that's the electricity of your body. Like your minerals are really, really important. So I would say electrolytes are pretty much on every single plan in acne case. From a hormone perspective, we do a lot just from food. So if someone does have, let's say, higher insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, and whey protein and dairy triggers them, we say, hey, let's take that out for a little bit, right? Like, let's remove some of those sources of dairy for the time being. Let's remove the inflammatory foods for the time being. Let's remove the added sugar and add in more mineral-rich water and nutrient-dense foods. Let's stop cooking with a bunch of oils and those finishing oils to lower the inflammatory load. But from a supplement perspective, we use a lot of Supreme Nutrition herbs. We rotate those. Allie and I really like the quality of them. They're single individual ingredients. So if it's fungal, if they're pregnant or breastfeeding, we like Vital Guard Supreme. I think Scutellaria, Allie, you use that one as well. If they're not, we really like golden thread. We use a lot of golden thread and olive leaf and Malia, which is neem, which, from a Chinese medicine perspective, these aren't strong detox agents, but they're herbs that help the body handle some of those foreign invaders. Daily basics we put on a lot of people's just because of overall the immune system being low and the liver support from the taurine and the inositol for the blood sugar. So I'd say those are probably some of the top, and then everything else becomes more bio-individual. Like if they have B6 deficiency patterns, Be Happy Bees. If their globulin's super low and they complain of bloating, gut makeover. If they are dealing with really high sex hormone binding globulin, estrogen dominance, we love artichoke extract. That's a great one to help kind of lower the overall load of estrogen. But it really is, it's the same but different. So like you said, is this a hard question to answer? Kind of. Because everyone can have like little fine-tuned differences.
Yeah, I think like we have so many case studies even just on daily basics with it helping people's blood sugar, which I think that's one thing that people definitely overlook in terms of how much that could be, affecting them. Everything from mood, energy to sleep to, what the liver is doing in that kind of like 1 to 3 a.m. window. I had a friend who was on a CGM monitor to track her blood sugar, and she was having insane dips in her blood sugar in the middle of the night, waking her up, couldn't really get back to sleep. And I was like, I know you have daily basics. I want you to try something for me. Instead of using it in the morning, I want you to use it at night. And so I had her doing it at night with like a chamomile, just kind of like a sleepy tea. She adds 2 tea. I know, it's so cozy.
I'm
And
like,
she
oh,
has
that
like
sounds really nice right
a whole
now.
little recipe. And she literally sent me within the next few days, her CGM brought that dip right back up. And so it stabilized
Wow.
her blood sugar overnight to help her with sleep. So everybody's blood sugar is going to be different, I think, based on kind of where those imbalances lie. Like, I know that my kind of blood sugar imbalance is more so in the morning, because I get woken up very early by a toddler who's been like dipping into the 4 a.m., which is super fun. And so by the time like I'm ready to get out the door by 8 a.m., I've lived a whole life for like 4 hours. And I'm like, wow, blood sugar like really needs to be, kind of on point here. So, and some people tend to stress out more at night because of work the next day or whatever it may be, or breastfeeding throughout the night, like, stuff like that. So I think that the inositol is a very, like, one of my absolute favorite ingredients. And that's why we have it in a few different products. And that is a question that we actually do get a lot is like with some of the ingredients that cross over, like our inositol and our taurine, we actually have in a few different formulas. Like, is it okay for me to continue to take and stack these? And the answer is yes. We dose things fairly low to where they're still effective, but the upper limits of taking inositol can be like 5,000 milligrams. So even if you're taking, same thing with like adding daily basics onto a prenatal, yes, like you don't want too much vitamin A, but typically you're not going to like overdo anything by kind of like combining our products, or taking our entire line is like definitely safe to do if you wanted to do that.
I compare it to like strawberries. When people ask me that question, like, can I stack them? I'm like, okay, is it bad if for your lunch you had 5 strawberries or if you had 10 strawberries? They're like, it really wouldn't matter. Exactly. Now, if you were to have 400 strawberries, that's a problem. So, it's like the dosage is so astronomically high, which you do see people put a ton of synthetic nutrients in a supplement, and it's
Yeah.
25 or 250% of the daily value, and then that's in a host of other things. Like, they're on a thyroid supplement with selenium, they're on a multivitamin with selenium, they're on all these other things, and then it's probably not wise to be on all of those alongside 200 micrograms of selenium in daily basics. So we try to really educate in that way too, of look at what else you're consuming and compare it to that.
Oh my gosh. I could talk to y'all all day. I'm like literally soaking this up, but I want to ask you, Allie, as a mother, you're playing out a very real and relatable scenario for me when you're like toddler waking me up and all the things. I get it. I'm in it right now with a almost 3-year-old, and my youngest just turned 4 months at the time of this recording. So, we're in it over here. So I'd love to hear from you on, what are some core products that you'd recommend to moms, and as well as like how to take them, maybe, because that's such a great tip of like, hey, if you're waking up in the middle of the night, or if you're noticing a big drop in blood sugar in the middle of the night, maybe take it at night, put it with some chamomile. Like, that's such a great hack. I love those
Yeah.
little like tips. So if you got any other tips for moms, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I mean, going back to stress control and just kind of like how to use it, you can take 1 to 2 capsules. You could try taking one in the morning, and you could try taking one at night. It kind of, again, depends personally, but I think if you're kind of looking for support in those like stress areas of your life, the other time that I tend to get stressed out is during school pickup, because I'm kind of like juggling. Like, I have a 5-year-old, like almost 6, and 2.5. And so like they're just far apart enough, kind of like yours, to where it's like, okay, one's done at 2, the other one's done at 12:30. Like, there's a lot of coordinating things, not to mention, I take them to their chiropractic. We do craniosacral. Like, there's a lot going on. So me kind of like running around, I feel like, is a little bit stressed, and also trying to work, like I technically work like full time, if you want to call it that, with like one-on-one clients and core formulas. And so I just fit everything into a pocket. But I usually drive around with a cup
Yeah.
of coffee, even if it's at 2 o'clock. But I kind of save, I use, and you can use upward amounts of daily basics as well. We dosed it low for that reason. So if you end up with 4 scoops a day, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. You're going to go through your bottle quicker, but then also, looking at where you're getting other supplements. But I tend to make my like afternoon kind of like daily basics cup of coffee sometimes in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, and I put 2 scoops in the 2 o'clock, because I know that that's like my stress time. Like, where do I need extra supports? Or even adding some like the organospore capsules. I open those up, or you can just take them, and I add those to my coffee in the afternoon, because I know that that's going to be like my personal stress window. So I think kind of like catering when you take things to your life. I'm also really not good at taking things in the morning, just because there's too much going on with like packing school lunches, stuff like that. So like I tend to take a lot of things either in the afternoon or before bed. So, me, for drainage essentials, I prefer to take that during my dinner time, because I want that extra kind of like overnight liver support. I do tend to wake up just maybe thinking something's wrong, or like, I don't know, you're just on, like, when you're a mom and you're sleeping, you're still halfway alert to be like, what's, like, is everybody okay? Is everybody breathing? So for me, getting that liver support at night is much more important. So I think that kind of like knowing your personal operations and using our supports to those windows for you as a mom, you know, could be beneficial, and kind of tune into your own schedule.
So good. So helpful and so relatable. And I'm also like seeing a vision of my future. So I'm like, okay, a car coffee with daily basics. That's really,
It
I'm
also just
pocketing
makes
that.
the car right. Yeah, it just makes everything so great, you know?
Well, I think as women too, we just like love a little treat to look forward to. So just like, I'm going to have my like car coffee. Like, I just think that's really special. I'm like,
Yeah.
anytime there's an extra bevy that we can bring around, like, that's super fun. Okay. So any future products coming for core formulas, like any launches we can get excited about? I don't know if you guys would ever do that stuff for kids, but I think we'd love that too. Just like going to put that plug in there, but anything that is coming that you could like give us a little sneak peek?
Allie, do you want to give the update on
Yeah.
our line?
Yes, I'll update on the kids line, because that has been in progress, I guess, for like a year now. We announced it almost a year ago that we were coming out with a kids line, and we still are. The update is that when we decided to, spoiler alert, launch an electrolyte powder, we are starting to use and source whole food fruit powders. So with that, we learned a lot when it comes to ingredients. Talk about
Yeah.
maltodextrin, talk about flow agents, talk about cost, and having, like, I understand why companies don't make clean products. It's really hard. It has to dissolve, and it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Also, it has to taste good. So when we kind of started, like, I basically had an entire list of all the kids' formulas we're going to more or less they'll still about be the same. But, you know, a brain support, that one for me is big, big, big. Just
Mm,
based on my own personal experience with my son. We definitely want to have like a picky powder to where it's like, how do we get these extra nutrients in kids that,
mm,
you know, whether there's, you know, I work mostly with like complex cases and complex children. But whether there's something or deeper going on, or it's just a, you know, a 2-year-old who's being a 2-year-old, and they're like, I don't like that today. You're like, cool, you know, like how do we get in some of these extra nutrients? So that line is still fully being developed, but we are working out the kinks on the electrolyte powder first because that is a much more simple formula. It's like we
mm-hmm.
know what we want. We have the 2 flavors. We have the exact dosages and the formula already down. Emily and I are like both on board with we like the taste. So now we're at a place of just working out the cost and making sure it's cost effective and how do we do that. So once we kind of work that out, we're going to come back to the kids line and it'll hopefully be like very much more streamlined because the idea behind a kids line is I didn't want capsules. We
Right.
probably will have options for capsules because there are plenty of moms that I talk to. They'll text me and be like, guess what? My kid is taking capsules now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Your world just like opened up. You know, like if I get a kid that I'm working with that can swallow capsules, it's like a game changer. You know, otherwise we're working with stuff that you have to hide,
Yeah.
tinctures, homeopathy, which is totally fine. It's what I'm used to. But ideally, I would love to have the kids line be a powdered form where it's kind of similar to Daily Basics, where it's the coconut milk powder and then it's added fruit powders. You know, we may or may not explore using a little bit of we have kind of like a sweetener blend that we're using, which is, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if it's like proprietary secret information, but it's whole food based, you know? So like in some cases, do we maybe want to have it in there so it tastes good and kids are excited about it? But
Mm-hmm.
it'll be something that can easily be added to like smoothies or just water would be awesome. You know, I throw a bunch of stuff in my kids' water and it's a closed water bottle. They don't know, or they're like, this is great. You know, it doesn't look weird because they can't see it. So having it be like very easy to use is something that I really want to make happen for moms because otherwise it's too stressful and then people just don't do it. They're like, I can't handle this. I'm not doing it.
It's so real. I mean, to get my toddler, we did like he had a huge flare up of eczema last year. He has a whole health history himself that we've worked through, but we had a protocol that we were working with, and to get him to take these supplements was
Yeah.
literally HELL. It was hell. It was horrible. It was so hard because he just, I mean, just for whatever reason, like I will douse this in honey. Like I will make this so delicious. No, I'm good. I don't
Yeah.
want it, you know? So
Yeah.
that makes me so excited because he loves a smoothie. And I think most kids love a smoothie. And if you could put a powder in there that moms could feel good about, I mean, that would be huge. I will be your
Yeah.
first
Or
customer.
even
Tell
just
me when it's launching. Like I will buy it.
oatmeal, applesauce, you know,
Yes.
like I open up
Yes.
capsules and I use like pouches for my oldest because that's the easiest thing. So I'll buy applesauce pouches, I'll squeeze out half of it
And
because I
put
don't
it
want him
in
to take the whole and I put it in there. But
another
also if
mom
it
tip.
tastes good. I mean, my oldest will take anything that's gross. Like he is such a champ. He's really been kind of like, you know, doing this for a long time, so he's used to it. But like I don't want it to taste bad if it doesn't have to, you know?
So good.
So,
No, that's such
yeah.
another good mom tip. By the way, listeners, like take note of that. Put something in the applesauce packet. That's so good. No
Yeah.
kid is going to refuse an applesauce packet either.
No.
Like,
I mean, and
unfortunately.
just like the Serenity Kids is a great company. They make ones with like
Yeah.
meat and veggies. That's how I still
Yeah.
get meat and veggies in him. The Once Upon a Farm ones, you know, those are great. So like
Okay.
there's plenty of
Yeah.
ways to do it, but our goal is to make things like simple. Like how hard is it to take Daily Basics? It's not. People look forward to it. What if there was something that your kids actually wanted to take? That's our goal.
That's amazing. Incredible.
Yeah, we're excited for the kids line. And we're also glad that as we're sourcing these ingredients, we're able to see kind of from that spec sheet if there is a filler or flow agent that isn't on the label of a lot of things out there. Because I think about what I want to give myself and my community and kids someday. I don't want it to be filled with maltodextrin at very high amounts. I mean, that's why we only have 2 flavors initially with our electrolytes and then an unflavored option because like I mentioned on my stories today, trying to find a lemon and lime that didn't have lactose, we couldn't find it. They all are cut with lactose. And someone may say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it is for the
Mm-hmm.
mom or the child dealing with autoimmune issues because of the mimicry that takes place with gluten or just dairy sensitivities. There's a lot of people that don't do well with that. And it adds up when you're taking a line of supports. And we want people to feel confident that they can take every single one of our things and their kids can take every single one of the kids' line and it not be an issue from like a compound situation.
Mhm.
So just finding quality whole powdered nutrients that aren't filled with 75% maltodextrin or another filler was a huge challenge and why this has taken a lot longer. But it makes us so excited to be able to finally launch it when it's ready. It's been like a true labor of love. So we have our electrolytes coming and then we have a protein powder that's coming. And the
I'm so
protein powder
excited.
I am so excited for because I literally can't find anything out there. Not one thing that I like. And Allie and I's philosophy is we're never going to launch what we already feel like is available. I'm someone where any form of sweetener, I don't care what it is, allulose, monk fruit, stevia, it triggers migraines for me. Like it
Mm.
absolutely triggers migraines for me. And so I can't touch it. I can't touch any of it. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I was drinking the Zevia drinks periodically.
Remember when you used to have those?
I couldn't connect the fact of why I would get a headache several hours after drinking it. And I'm like, after enough time, I realized that that was also the trigger of these little breakouts around my mouth. Like I had a little bit of monk fruit and a little bit of stevia here and there. It went away completely when I cut it all out. And I see that a lot in my acne community in my Facebook group where people are like, I've tried everything and I cut out this protein shake with stevia or monk fruit and their skin clears up. It's wild. So I really wanted to create a beef protein isolate since whey protein is an acne trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And protein does not blend well into beverages because Allie and I love to make protein coffee. It's the thing in the world.
Me too.
Add a protein to my morning coffee or smoothie and it not have
Mm.
stevia or monk fruit. I didn't want it to have a lot of sugar and I wanted it to be whole food nutrients. And so it is a beef protein isolate. Our first flavor is going to be vanilla. It's 100% vanilla extract powder. I know, so good, so good. We have a little bit of Redmond's salt in there as well for the minerals and then the beef isolate. And then our sweeteners we're going to use, it's a combo of really great coconut sugar and date sugar. So that's what we're going to be sweetening with. It'll be like less than 4 grams. So it
You're the
should.
first person to know this, by the way.
I
We have not
feel
told anybody this information.
I feel so special and also like I'm freaking out because I am like I mean, I literally at the time of this recording, I have two breakouts right here. You want to know what this is from? Stevia.
I'm
Yes.
telling.
Stevia always triggers my skin. My skin is otherwise completely clear, but I was like I wanted to drink one of those Olipop last week, like the
Yes,
Olipop, the seasonal ones. I'm like, I want to be fun and have like a holiday one. Well, no, think again, Erica, because it totally triggers for me. And, I'm always thinking, how can I get that extra 20 grams of protein or
yeah,
15 grams of protein with my
Exactly.
breakfast? Sure enough, every time I make breakfast for myself, my toddler wants to come and eat half of my breakfast with me, even though I've already served him. So, I'm like, as a mom, how can I get this extra protein? So, what you guys are talking about, I think is going to be such a game changer because moms need good, high quality protein, more protein. I mean, everyone does. But this, I mean, to be able to put it in my coffee, like
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this.
we
And
love.
that's like,
So here for
yeah,
it.
Emily and I have
Yeah,
like the same routine essentially of like what do we do in terms of like a morning workout, what happens
Yeah,
and what do we eat beforehand. Like she and I are both like, okay, we want our coffee, that's a non-negotiable, but yeah, we want to have something in our system
protein.
before we go do and lift heavy weights, like that's our thing. And so that
Mm.
is kind of like my like mom hack or pre-workout hack is like I add butter to my coffee, I add ghee, I add 2 scoops of our protein powder, or I was using a protein powder unflavored. And every time I would use it, I'd be like, okay, this is the day. It's not gonna like get gunky on my frother. And it doesn't exist. And that is like truly, I think the best thing about it outside of the taste we like is
it
our
does.
protein powder blends. It literally goes in and you froth it, and it doesn't have weird congealed like microbial weird growth things in there.
I
You're
know
like,
exactly what
whoa.
you're talking about.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So yeah, I think it's because of the quality. We tasted a handful of them, and then also just the other stuff that's kind of mixed in there. It's like a really good blend, and when we do something kind of like that, it finally like hits and we're like, that was meant to be, this is it. This was kind of one of those things where we, we've had 4 or 5 renditions of it, but it kind of just like started to like improve. And now we're like in the very final stages of like, okay, I think this is it. We're going to do like one more to just be like, this is absolutely it. Like, does it need a little bit more vanilla? We'll see. But other than that, we're just like, we're running out and I'm like, oh my God, it's almost gone. This is so sad.
Michael sent me more ASA. I don't want to order now that I've used ours, even though we've had different renditions of it. Like, I'm not going to say brands, but I don't want to go back to using them because it just
No, I've just used all our old, yeah.
doesn't do it for me. I'm like, I want ours. Like, I
Yeah.
need it now.
I just finished like rendition 2 and I'm like, it wasn't perfect, but it's still good. Like we explored using a different sweetener and we didn't, it was
Wow.
okay, but it wasn't perfect. And I'm like, well, it's better than the one I was using, so I'm still using it. But yeah, we're getting like so close. So I mean, our goal is to launch both of the electrolytes and the protein. The protein will come first. And I mean, we just kind of keep saying like first quarter 2025. I mean, we don't know, but with this comes like, yeah, a different like packaging perspective too. So like with electrolytes, to keep everything sealed and have it fresh because it doesn't have any, like insane
Right.
fillers and preservatives. It needs to be in packages. Well, our manufacturer doesn't really do that. So now we have to find a co-packer that's going to be able to put them in to go packets. And then we also have always wanted Daily Basics to be to go. And so now it's kind of a good time to do that. So we're getting mock-ups actually sent, I think next week, of to go packets for Daily Basics. So it's kind of one of these things that we're using as like a learning, thing as well. It's like if we do it with one product, how can we utilize this for something else? And that's kind of, making us more efficient. It just takes more time up front.
Okay, last question for y'all. Because you mentioned your coffee. What do you, and you were saying butter, ghee, like what is your daily coffee recipe? Like what's going in there? What are we putting in our coffee? Like I need every detail down to like the teaspoon. Like tell us, because I'm going to replicate this exact thing when your protein comes out, and
Okay. I'll give
everyone
you
else
my
needs to do this
recipe.
too.
Recipe card because it's
Recipe cards need to go out in your, yes, do that in
We
your, with
should
your
do that
orders.
actually.
Yes, do that with the order, like receipt, recipe card. Here's how to make your
Yeah.
protein
it's
coffee. Done.
the whole thing. Like every morning, that's why when people say you have coffee on an empty stomach, and I'm like, I have this. I have all of this and coffee
Yeah.
sprinkled.
Yeah.
First,
We just did a post on it.
yes, and
Yep.
okay, I know that some people are very anti-coffee, anti-chocolate. That's fine. Opinions, like we're always like, it's okay. I've done this now for almost since summer of 2018. Have never felt better. I'm not changing it.
Mm,
Like
mm.
it's like the thing I go to bed thinking about it in the morning.
Same.
Mid rating, I'm like, I want another one. Like I could literally just do that all day long. So we'll have to create a recipe card because I mean Allie and I like it's a full blown meal in my cup in the morning.
It is. It
I
is a
want
meal.
it. I
And that's what
want
I
it
have
all.
time for. And also, like, I don't have time to, like, digest food while packing lunches and picking up the toddler off the floor while he's, like, fly swatting his brother. You know what I mean? Like, there's no capacity for my body to digest much. I don't have time for
That's
breakfast like that.
that's
So,
good.
like, we put all of our calories and things into this, coffee recipe, and in our opinion, as functional nutritionists, it's okay. Like the coffee that we're also choosing is different, right? Like we're choosing King coffee, which has that adaptogen mushroom in it. But my recipe is 1 packet of King. I do about 2 scoops of protein, which is half the dose. Yeah, take
Okay.
note.
I'm writing
Which is
all this
about
down
half
right
the
now.
dose. So like
Okay.
a full dose of protein would technically be like 4 tablespoons to get 20 grams of protein. I kind of split it up because I also want 2 cups of coffee in my Ember to go. So mine is 1 King, basically half the dose, about 10 grams of protein. And then I do about like a half a teaspoon, half a tablespoon ghee. I don't measure it. And then I do 2 scoops of my Daily Basics, and then I do a splash sometimes. So what's interesting is I used to do a splash of cashew milk, the Elmhurst brand. Once I started using our protein, don't even need the cashew milk. Like it's that flavorful and kind of thick. It almost just don't even need it. So that's pretty much what I do.
Oh,
Oh, and
delicious.
2 extra spore capsules.
Okay.
Similar but way more ghee. I love my butter. I get a huge glob, put that in there. I love Manuka honey, love it. So I add like I don't measure. People know this about me. I don't have recipes. That's why we're gonna have to create a recipe card. But I put the honey in there. But sometimes because I have everything in there, I'll add things that don't have taste. So like right now, I'm on my own little protocol, and there's a supplement called SBI Protect, which is a lactose free.
Yeah.
It's tasteless. I'll throw that in there. I'll throw some inulin powder, which is a prebiotic for the gut. So I use that morning coffee as a way to just like get my collagen and protein and butter and ghee. But I also still will have like a meat stick or a raw bar alongside it, you know, and I've learned
Yeah.
that that's what makes me feel my best. It's not like we're just like, this is my breakfast. No, this is my, before I go like slam weights at the gym, I've got like a raw bar and some coffee, and then I come home and have my big breakfast after. So people
I
always
do
like,
that too.
at breakfast, I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm just like not eating all of my meat, sausage, and eggs and avocado toast before I go lift really heavy weights and feel sick to my stomach in the morning. But whole thing, it's like a whole thing that like I pull everything out, and it's just like this concoction every single morning, and I love it. I absolutely.
And how are you mixing this? Like, are you hand frothing? Are we putting in the Breville frother? Like, what? How do you heat the ghee? Like, tell me the final detail.
That's her hand frother, but I have like a Breville, similar Breville.
Okay.
It heats it and froths it together. I can push a button and walk away. Just because sometimes I know some people will do it in a blender. You just have to be careful with the plastic and hot water, and
Yeah.
some people will do that, but usually I will just do like the Breville. It's an off brand, but that's what I use.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then with like the heat component, like you do want to have it at a drinkable temperature. So like you don't want to pour scalding hot boiling water over all of these nutrients. I mean,
Right.
that is something that can denature that, and so you want to protect it. So it should be drinkable at first sip, not like, oh, that's too hot. You know, so whatever temperature that is, I'm not totally sure. I just, you know, I heat my water, and it's like you just don't want it boiling hot if you're adding vitamins and minerals and nutrients.
Right.
Amazing. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I can't wait for that sip of ghee coffee that I'm having tomorrow morning.
I think you'll also like our little other thing that you'll be the first to know, our other supplement that's in the works,
Tell me.
which is skin
Emily's
health.
looking at me like, can I say it?
It's for skin health? Can you say more? Or is that just, that's period?
So I can say more. The actual final formulation might have some fine tune and adjusting, but there isn't a lot out there that actually is a supplement that helps your body build its own collagen. I mean, you've heard of certain things that do that, but one of the suppliers that we use over in Japan, which is where we get our ETOS from, our enzyme treated asparagus extract, these are ingredients that have actually gone through human clinical trials with science backed evidence data. That's not the case for a lot of these PubMed studies that are not controlled. These are human clinical trials. And that's why we love ETOS, because there's human clinical trial data behind it. Well, they also have other ingredients that we love that we're going to source that have to do with skin health, whether that is supporting reduction of fine lines and wrinkles, internal glow, collagen production from within. Yes. And even helping with things like eczema and psoriasis,
Wow.
all in one skin supplement, because people will say like, oh, well, what's the root cause? This will be one that's like just nourishment for your skin. So that was the goal behind it, to support skin from every angle. So that's another thing that's in the works currently.
Oh my gosh.
And like the ingredients are unique. Like
Yeah.
Emily sent me this list of like, hey, let's look into all these, and I'm looking at it like I know a lot about ingredients and herbs, and some of these are like, whoa, that's cool. So we're waiting. We're kind of like we're gathering all of our information to be like, all right, sourcing, because that's what we do with everything.
There's literally nothing like it, but that's how we
Yeah,
formulate. I'm not going to formulate
yeah,
what's all.
yeah. And then from there, like we talk to our, manufacturer and we're like, hey, we want to source these ingredients. What do you got? And so they'll go to all these different, there's nothing that they, or nobody that they won't source from. They can source from whoever. And so once they get it, they send us the certificates of analysis, which are also now on our website that you can view, mostly as kind of like a whole formula test. But we look at the COAs for every single raw material to say, is this
Mm-hmm.
clean enough? Do we want to use it? Is it organic if it can be? What's the cost? And so then once we have like a full spectrum of like all of the raw materials, then we blend it together and kind of go from there. But there takes a lot of vetting in the process of like even formulating a single product, because we want to make sure that everything that goes into it is good from the start. But yeah,
Wow.
that'll be a good one.
2025, here we come.
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
so excited for all of this. You guys are amazing. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
you.
So there you have it. If you love this conversation, please make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Trust Issues podcast. It truly helps our listenership grow, get this message out to more and more people who would find it helpful, and gives us also feedback on what you want to see on the show. I love to bring you brands and companies and individuals that I think are doing things right and ask them questions that hopefully you want the answers for as well. You can make sure you follow the Core Formula brand on Instagram at Core Formulas, and you can shop online at shopcoreformulas.com. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. They share such great, valuable information, and on their website as well, I have found they share a lot of great blog posts around health in general and specifically how to use their products. We'll see you next time.